guys, welcome to today's live. Today I can't speak, obviously, because I can't get words out. But we are going to get straight into this. We've got straight from New Zealand, we have Matt. And Matt has created something that we all struggle with. And I think it's a great idea and wish him the best. I mean, he's doing well and it's funding for this. And we'll have him explain it all. But I'm going to play a video on this, and that will pretty much explain a lot of what Matt is doing, and we will bring him up. So here we go. Hold on a second. I got to actually play the music for that. Mike, there we go. Welcome, Matt.
Oh yeah.
I just love that video.
Yeah, I mean, I just cut it up. The original one was actually it was just all voiceover, and I just got some music off YouTube and made it a bit quicker. So it's good for ads.
It's perfect. I mean, it tells everything that you want to tell, and yeah.
Yeah, it's good fun. It was filmed it not far from my place. It's only about a 40-minute drive from where I live, so it's quite nice to have all that sort of scenery around.
Beautiful
pretty close
area.
Easy.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of here, of Vancouver, of BC.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah. So what gave you the idea to create something like this? I mean, it's ingenious.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a fly fishing guide for the last 5-6 years here, and when COVID happened, it really screwed me because all my clients are foreigners. So luckily, it was the end of the season when it happened. It was April. Our season finished at the end of April, so lockdown happened at the end of March. So I got most of my season, but then the borders closed, obviously, and they haven't opened since. So
Same here.
Yeah. I mean, I think 80% of my clients are American, so it's going to be a long time till they come back. Our borders are open to Australia now, but they don't really make much of a difference. So I was, I was sitting around during lockdown. I knew it was going to be a long time to recover, and I always thought by the time I was just turned 30, I was going to get back into a business somehow. And this is always something I've always hated doing, was packing all my safety gear that I had to carry with me, because when I was a guide, I had to carry enough for 3 people basically. So it was quite annoying. It was basically just a plastic container at the bottom of my bag that got in the way and was messy and just full of stuff that you wouldn't even, if I went down, the clients wouldn't even know where to start. So that was the biggest problem. So I thought about just bringing everything in one. At the moment you can buy a first aid kit, you can buy a knife, you can buy a head torch, you can buy a tarp, and you chuck them all in the bottom of your bag and let them sit there. Whereas with this, I brought everything into one and made it quite systemizable, modular, so you can take what you need when you need it, and that's what sort of made it quite different to what's out there. And I focused a lot on getting good gear as well, rather than just the cheap crap that you'll get in the stores that cost nothing. So took me a whole year to get to launch. I went through quite a few iterations. So the early designs look pretty average, and they've come a long way just with the materials and the way it's built and everything. So now it all fits in quite nicely. It's pretty compact. It's as light as I could get it, and it has all those bits and pieces that you should be carrying whenever you head out on those longer trips.
Oh, it's a great design. It's very compact. It's very here, let me just pull it up. Yeah. It fits all in the bag, and inside the bag, I mean, I'll just pull up this picture. You've got all these other things. You got your shelter, medical, water, fire tools.
Yeah, it all lays out It all lays out like this. So it's all just laid in there like that.
Oh, that's great.
And it goes down.
Nice and compact.
Yeah, it is, and the best thing about it is it's modular, so like you don't have to take everything. You just take out the tool case for the day if you want to. You don't have to take the whole thing if you don't need to. Like a lot of day trips I do, I won't carry everything. I'll just carry the first aid kit. So it's quite nice having that. And then obviously even in the back of the car, I spend a lot of time in the backcountry with the car, and something goes down and you don't really have, you're hoping that you have a screwdriver or something in the car, and then you find that you don't. So it's quite nice to have everything on one that forgets quite a fair bit of stuff. So it's nice to know that it's always going to be there when you need it. So yeah, it's worked out pretty well.
No, it's good looking kit. Like you got this whole fundraising campaign for it, and you're doing really well on it too.
Yeah, it's gone well. I mean, it's my first Kickstarter. I sort of spent the past year just researching how it works and the best way to go about it, because I've done it mostly by myself. So I've had some help with the branding and stuff, with the graphic design, but the rest of it I've basically done myself. So it took a long time to get where it is, and figuring out how Kickstarter works. And if you prepare well, you can do well. So I spent a lot of time preparing before launch, and then just fingers crossed it was going to work. There was no way for me to really know how well it was going to work. I sort of just had to back my preparation, and it turned out quite well. I mean, and I did $100,000 New Zealand dollars in the first week, which I wanted to do that in the first 2 weeks. So I've done double that in 2 weeks. So it's worked out quite well.
Because there's other kits out there, but there's no kits that I know of that are a complete kit like this. And
yeah, I mean, there's always been survival kits, you know. Then they're just a lot of you can they're either in a plastic bottle, or some of them you can buy them in a tin, but they're just useless. I mean, you're never going to use them. They're just gimmicks. They're basically little gifts that you give to people, especially those smaller ones, and even the Gerber ones that Bear Grylls did. You know, it's just the gear's good, but it's just so basic. You got a fire lighter, you've got a knife, and you've got sometimes some fishing hooks, and it's not going to really do much. It doesn't really cover all the bases, and especially when it comes to, you see a lot of survival kits will have fishing hooks in them, and you know, over here as a fly fishing guide, you're unlikely to catch a fish with a fly rod if you know what you're doing, not to mention with a couple of hooks and some line. It's never going to happen. So it's just a waste of time, waste of space. So yeah, I mean, if you look in the market, that's why I sort of I went with it, because I did a lot of research and I saw what was out there, and I've never really bothered buying those ones, because they're just, you might as well make your own. I mean, there's really only two options: make your own, or I've tried to make a kit that's comparable to making your own, but it's a lot easier and more compact. You know, the hardcore guys are always going to make their own, because they have $200 knives, $100, $200 head torches, and I'm not trying to target that. So obviously it'd be too expensive if it was. So, and a lot of guys, hunters and stuff in New Zealand, we use beacons here a lot, because you know, if we set off a GPS beacon, there'll be a helicopter to save us within about half an hour. Whereas a lot of countries don't have that, and if they do, like America, you got to pay tens of thousands of dollars. So there's a lot of she'll be right here. So guys will only carry the very minimum, which that's why I made it modular, so you can actually play with it at your leisure. You don't have to take the whole thing. Whereas all other survival kits, you basically take a big bag or a bottle, and they're just full of stuff you don't even need. Most of them just gimmicks and widgets.
Yeah, because I mean, like throughout the years, I mean, I've camped my whole life, and it's like you put stuff together, but you don't. When you have stuff together, I mean, it's a mess. It's all over the place. It's not organized, and this is nice and compact, where you can keep it in the car, or you can have it in the bottom of your backpack, or wherever it might be. It's kind of out of the way, but you've got it. Yeah,
I mean, that's the main thing. The reason I went down it, because like I said, I always forget stuff, and the amount of time I've forgotten my fire kit or something when I've been in the middle of nowhere and I haven't been able to light a fire, or I've got wet matches, it's been pretty annoying. So the fact that I've got everything in one, I know that it's always going to be there. You know, you take something out, you know it's missing. You're not going to just turn up and you've packed it all in the bottom of your bag and you've forgotten something important. So it's I sort of basically built it for myself, and then I sort of felt like I was onto something, because everything else in the market is pretty average. So ran with it, and spent the past year sort of building it. I mean, if you look at the Kickstarter page lower down the page, you'll see the original prototypes. I mean, she was pretty rough early on.
That was a
Yeah,
3D model, right?
yeah, it's my cousin did that for me. I did a hand drawing, then my cousin did the 3D model. And you see, like, it took a long time because initially I had way more stuff, and I just had to keep simplifying it and simplifying it because a lot of the stuff you don't need. Like, I had my initial drawing, you might see that I had a power bank built into the bottom. But then I thought, I mean, the additional cost is one thing, but a lot of people already have power banks and it's additional weight. Some people don't want to carry them, so it's just not necessary. So I just kept smashing it down to the essentials and making sure that I just had the stuff that you should carry rather than stuff you want to carry.
So
and you'll notice,
when do you plan on going in production with this?
It'll start as soon as Kickstarter's over. So I'll be ordering late next. I'll finish on July 3rd. So the orders will go out the following week, and they'll start getting made. And they'll probably take 3 or 4 months. There's a lot of sourcing and stuff that takes a lot of time because all the materials and stuff, all the factories are in China and they make all the materials, and then it's the kit's actually made in Thailand. So I have to ship everything from China to Thailand to get it actually made. And then I got to get it put together and then shipped out to the different countries. I only launched with 5 different countries just to make it a bit more streamlined when I go to fulfill, because I don't want to be one of those Kickstarters that ships to the whole world and then doesn't deliver any because they spread themselves too thin. And I had that happen to me with Kickstarter last year. So yeah, I mean, I've got US, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and then I added Singapore because I had some early orders from some clients in Singapore. So I thought, if I've got to ship some there, I might as well open it up because it's a small enough country and it's got similar trade rules to us. So I added that just as a bit of a consolation, but I'll sort of target the other markets later in the year once I've got these sorted. I'd rather get this right and then move on to the other markets rather than try to do it all at once.
Mm-hmm. So you've got the 5 essentials. So your medical kit, what's in your medical kit?
It's basically the same sort of level. I pretty much modeled it off Adventure medical kits. So it's the same sort of build as their backpacker level. So it's made for sort of 2 to 3, 4 days for like 1 to 2 people. So I built it to that just to be like your basic essential first aid kit that's going to carry you through your standard stuff. I mean, if you want to go hardcore, you would have to add your own sort of like tourniquet and trauma kits and all that sort of stuff. But I don't want to go down that level because it makes it a bit too complicated for what it is. And if you want that stuff, I've never carried that stuff. So if you want that stuff, you can add it yourself. And that's a lot of the cases I've left room. So like I said, I've stripped it down a lot. So I've left a lot of space in there. So it's covering the basic essentials, but there's room to customize it to yourself. Like Australians, they always are going on about the having a snake kit because they have massive issues with snakes. And all my Aussie clients that I've taken fishing in the past, they'll walk around with their hands up above their waist because snakes will jump up at their arms, but they can't get through the waders, so they have to walk around in the grass like this. Whereas in New Zealand, we have nothing that can hurt you. So there's no spiders, no snakes, no wolves, no bears, no nothing. So we just need to carry the stuff that we need to carry, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at what's in there. You got quite a bit of stuff in there, from emergency blankets, scissors, tweezers.
Yeah, so it's basically it's like that level of that Adventure medical kit. So it's got all your PBT bandages, elastic bandages, triangle bandage. It's got all your gauze and your wipes, your cleaning wipes and your iodine and your different levels of plasters. Yeah.
So then you got your water straw.
Yeah, so the whole thing was actually built around, the whole shape of the case was built around that water straw because I was trying to find, I've been drinking out of life straws for years. Like I bought a life straw drink bottle about 5 years ago, and that's what I drink out of when I'm guiding because I just drink straight out of the river. Mm-hmm. I've been drinking out of it for 5 years. I've never been sick once, so it works pretty well. I've drank directly below dead animals and never got sick that have been in the river. So I wanted one of the first.
Why would you drink below a dead animal though?
Because they're in the river and you don't know they're there, so they've fallen. They've fallen and died in the river, and then you walk up about 50 meters and you see it, and then you've just filled up your drink bottle and had a drink below it. So if you didn't have a filter, you would be pretty sick. Like there was a whole cow in the river I drank below once.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was pretty rough. So yeah, and even some sort of tailwaters and some, we've got a bit of like runoff and dairy farming and the North Island and even those sort of rivers I drink out of, and I've never been sick. So they're pretty amazing things. So the first thing I wanted when I jumped into it was the straw. I mean, that's like, because I've always had my bottle, but I've always carried, because the bottle's got the straw inside it, the live straw, it's built in, so you can just fill it up and drink out of the bottle. Because the live straw, which is just like the straw I've got, the problem with their one, it's quite hard to drink through their one. It's very compact, and you got to be on your hands and knees. But I've always carried one as a backup in case I lose my bottle, which I've done. I've happened a few times. The bottle's dropped out of my bag, and then I've had to, if I didn't have the straw, I would have to go the whole day without water. So I've always carried a backup straw, which is this. This is the one in the kit. So I've always carried a backup one in my bag just in case we lose water or we don't have any way to pick water up. I mean, our water here, and generally, depending where you are, but it can be pretty clean, and you could be okay doing it, but it's not worth risking it, especially if you're in the backcountry for a couple of days. If you get sick, you could really screw yourself. So yeah, the straw was in the whole shape of the case and everything, because you see on those initial prototypes, I had the straw long ways, but I ended up shifting everything around and built it around the straw. That it's pretty good. It's got really good filter rate, and it lasts for about 500 litres, so it does pretty well. And I'll sell new ones on the website once I'm up and running as replacements.
Cool. Good idea, actually. And you got a shelter in there?
Yeah.
So
the shelter was, a lot of emergency shelters, and especially if you buy them in kits or even in shops, they'll all be mylar, the same as material that you have for space blankets, emergency blankets, and they just tear to shreds. So if you ever get a Facebook ad for one of those tube tents, they come up all the time, the orange ones, they're a triangle, and they have a black line on them, and they look like they're like emergency sleeping bags or tents. They're just not worth the money they're made from. I mean, I've tested dozens and dozens of type, and you just pull it like that and it'll tear. So if you're out there and you get a stick through it, it'll just rip to shreds. So I went out and I made the tarp's probably been the hardest thing, because trying to keep it compact, trying to get a nice material, and then trying to keep it compact enough, because that's the shelter pocket there. And see, I've got the aluminium pegs in there. And then this tarp, this is it now. So it's black now because it's a prototype, but it's going to be orange. Obviously, just the orange is as much to do with being able to be seen than anything else when flyover. So it's quite a nice, really nice. It's thin, it's light, but it's strong. Like I can tear that. You would never break it. So,
which is important.
And it's. It's not huge. I needed to keep it small because I needed to fit in the case. So it's about 6 foot by 6 foot. So I'm a little bit more than 6 foot, but it's an emergency. So it's not a tent. It's not for sleeping. It's if shit hits the fan and you get into a real big downpour or it starts snowing or something like that, or you get or you fall in the river and you're freezing cold. It's sort of something that will keep you going. It's also really good as a gear cover. So if it starts raining, you can cover up your pack or stuff, or you can use it as a ground cover as well, because you shouldn't be, if you end up sleeping outside, you shouldn't be sleeping directly on the ground, because that's what will kill you. So it's really good for that sort of backup. So I've sort of run it. I've got the paracord in there, which you got the paracord, then you got the pegs. So I've got 6 pegs. I think I got 6 pegs, paracord and tarp, and you can make it pretty good. If you look at the photos on my campaign, you can see me sitting underneath one. And that's the same size. So you can still make a pretty good lean-to, and you can even make a good tube tent out of it. And it's just that's it there, yeah. So that's the same size what I got. So you can actually get quite a bit out of it. It's surprising how much. But if you lay down straight, your feet might stick out the end. But it's not, like I said, it's not a tent. It's an emergency shelter. So it's basically comparing what you would have the mylar ones, which is what everything offers, and it's roughly the same size, but it's going to last you years rather than one term. All those mylar ones are one use only.
Well, I like that you also used you didn't use plastic pegs too, because I mean those things, you hit something and it busts, right?
Yeah, these are alloy, so I can't even bend these, like you see.
Yeah,
I can't even bend them, so they're really good, really strong, really light as well. They're only about 8 grams each, so that was the good thing about them. and they're well made up with the hitch on the end. You can really crank it up, just wrap and wrap and wrap, and just really get it really tight. Nice. So it's quite nice stuff. Yeah, it's quite. The tarp was always the trickiest because I have to try and make it fit, which is a big thing because it's getting it compact down. So that orange one that you showed before, that was a different material, and it just wasn't very good. I just didn't like it. It was too thick. It was too sort of rigid.
It looks almost like a tarp.
Yeah, it's like it's called Oxford fabric, and I wasn't a fan, so I went out with the same people that make the case. They're material experts, so I've had them go out the last couple of months and go find me a better material, and this is the latest one that's just come in the last few weeks, which is 70D ripstop poly, which is 5,000 millimeter water rating. So it's a good piece of kit. It's up there with any rainfly you'll buy in Ray or an outdoor store that would cost you $100, $150. So you're getting all of this gear for pretty damn cheap. You know, I considered making it more expensive, but trying to get it launched. You know, it's just heavily discounted. So at retail, it's pretty fair what it is. But because I'm launching on Kickstarter, like my initial discounts were 30-40%, just to get people on board early, because you're obviously not getting it till November. So it's about jumping on and following the journey, helping us get it started, and then we can move on from there. And everything is still constantly being improved. Like I've got I'm improving the tarp even more, which will be released soon. So because we're not a production yet, as we go, things will be upgraded, improved, and I'm releasing stretch goals next week, which will have a bit of upgrades to some of the contents and stuff that will be offered as we get the campaign bigger.
That's cool. You've also got a fire kit in there.
Yeah, so the fire kit goes inside the. So you'll see on my initial prototypes, I had fire, which was a separate square. So I had the tools at the top once it was inside. Then I had the first aid and then the fire next to each other. And I found once I started running some prototypes, I found that the first aid kit was way too small. So I had to make the first aid kit the same size as the tool case, so I could fit everything in. So to make up that space, I put the fire kit inside the tool case, and I made it a lot smaller because initially it was a quarter of the size of the case, and it was just unnecessary because all I had in there was the ferro rod and the tinder. Because initially I wanted to include other stuff like waterproof matches and stuff, but you can't ship them. It's illegal to ship them by air.
Combustible.
Yeah, so and you can buy that stuff. You know, you can buy matches and lighters at the corner store. So there was no point including it. So I made it enough space. I've got the little fire kit here. It's all waterproof. It's all got the waterproof zippers.
Oh,
and then you got the tinder in here, which is the little tinder logs, and they unpeel. Well, these are amazing, these things. Like I like these things in one strike. And then so you peel some of that off, make a little ball, and then you'll get the little so this little firelight is quite nice. I mean, I went through a lot of ferro rods, and you got the big ones, you got the thick ones, you got long ones. Yeah. Obviously I wanted to stay light and compact, and I found this one, which is a cool little piece of kit. And it's a small rod, but it's really effective. Like one strike and I can get that to light. So that comes off there. And then this is the striker down this end.
Oh, nice.
And then the back end goes in there. And these are all got water seals on them as well. And then you've got your rod there. And so, oh, shit. So it lights very well. One strike with that, and I can light that tinder like with ease. It's small, but it's got a lot of leverage because it's the whole handle comes up to one big thing. And this little striker is just very powerful. So. And these are replaceable, which is the best thing. So you can unscrew the ferro rods out. And so as you go through them, we'll be able to ship out replacements. So you can just screw in a new one and you're good to go. So it's made out of aluminium, the body, so it's going to last forever. And then you can replace the ferro rods.
That's neat.
Yeah, whereas like a lot of guys, you know, hardcore bushcraft guys will carry a ferro rod that's 6 inches long and 2 inches round. So it's bigger than the whole case. And they are fun to use, but they're just not necessary. I mean, this is as good as any of the ones I tried, and it's actually easier to light than it is the handle stick ones.
Yeah.
So I was pretty happy with that. And then inside the tool case, you've got the main tool case, and then inside here, then you've got your head torch. So we included this. I mean, a lot of people, like I've already got 3 or 4 head torches, but I included it all because I wanted it to be a full system. Like I was considering doing an empty kit for people that already have stuff, but it complicates it so much. And then someone may have a knife, but they don't have a head torch. So it just ends up being too much of a workaround. So I got this. This head torch is quite cool. It's got red lights. It's even got hands-free, which is quite cool. So I can turn it off and on that. It's probably pretty handy. And it's got your standard red light, and it's USB. USB chargeable, and it's focusable, so it's got floodlight, and so that can screw back and forth. So you can do spotlight and floodlight. So it's quite powerful, 300 lumens, but when you focus it right in, it's really quite bright.
Nice. That's what I was going to ask you if it was USB.
Yeah, it is USB. I wanted to go. I was considering doing the battery, a separate battery one, because it just makes it easy to ship, and you can carry extra batteries with you. But they're so hard to find good ones. I mean, these days, there's not many ones out there that are actually good quality that take AAAs or take separate batteries. The only ones are the real hardcore ones where you have the battery pack on the back of your head. They're the really powerful ones that take batteries, but that was never going to fit in here, so I sort of went away from that. And then we have the knife. So I went through a lot of knives as well, and this is the best one I could find out of everything I tested. It's really well done. So you got the pretty good blade serration, and it's locked, so you can't do that. And then you got proper pliers that come out.
Oh, nice.
So that's like really strong. So you can do proper work with it. Then you have you got your can opener, bottle opener, and then you've got a bit of screwdriver. And the one little thing that I added in here that's quite a nice little thing to have. It's not essential, but it's a nice thing to have, is the tool bits that come with it. So it has this, you got the screwdriver there, it has this adapter that you pop on there, and then you've got all these which are magnetic, and then you can, what's run the wrong way? Then you got that, and then you got all these tool bits that are magnetic. So it's a quite nice little thing to have, especially if you've got the kid in the car. If you've got in the car or the back of the boat or something, like I was saying earlier, I mean, the amount of times I've needed a screwdriver and I had taken it out and I forgot that I had, and I haven't. One time I had the boat out and I had the outboard up. I put the outboard up, and then something happened to it. I can't remember what happened, but something happened with the hydraulics, and it was stuck up, and I couldn't get it down. So if I had a screwdriver, I could have dropped it manually, but I didn't have a screwdriver. So luckily, the prop was just in the water, so I just had to go really slow. It took me about half an hour to get back, but it was pretty lucky. So if I had a screwdriver then, I would have been good to go. And then you have, I did some flat pack duct tape, just so you can repair your tents, repair your bags, your boots, and everything. So there's about 2 meters of that. And then I had the where is that compass? So this compass is an upgrade on a stretch goal. So I've upgraded it to this one here. So it's a much more solid map compass compared to the old one. So that's an upgrade that's coming. And signal mirror. So initially I had the mirror built into the compass, but it's too thick and cumbersome for what you need. So this can go in the first aid kit as well, which is nice. So I have the whistle in the first aid kit. So if you just carry that and you get lost or you break a leg and you need to call out, you've got the whistle, and this will probably be good in the first aid kit too, just as a marker. So yeah, those are the sort of basic essentials that go inside the toolkit, and there's still plenty of space. Like I'll probably put my beacon in mine because I always carry a beacon, which is handy here because, like I said, it's a free helicopter ride if you push it. So I'll put mine in there, but a lot of countries won't use them, so you can just sort of change it up to how you like.
So there's still plenty of room in each of the cases for like matches or whatever you might want to put in.
Yeah, so the fire kit, that's only got the tinder and the thing. I built the fire kit so you can fit lighters and matches in there as well. So there'll be enough room to add 1 or 2 lighters and a packet of matches. So because you should always have a backup. So which I have in my own. I've got extra lighter and stuff in mine.
No, everything's waterproof, including the bags inside.
Yep. Yeah, they're all got sealed zippers. They're water resistant. They're not fully waterproof because they're not welded seams.
Yeah.
But they're all sealed, water resistant zippers. The material is 100% waterproof. The only place you're going to get water is if it's submerged, and it will seep through it'll eventually seep through the sewing. So, but that's because they're not sealed. So it's pretty good. Like I've had it flown down the river and stuff, and barely anything gets in. And because you've got double layer with these as well, you're not really going to get any water in these. But yeah, it's water resistant. It's pretty durable. I've chucked off mountains and stuff, and nothing's torn. That's how far I've come with the materials. Is initially they were all pretty rough and they'd fall apart a bit, but this one is the way this is made now. The quality and stuff is another level, just because of the factory I found. So the factory I've got now makes some of the best bags, outdoor bags in the world, and some of the biggest Kickstarter campaigns ever manufacture their bags in the same factory. So it's been quite nice to find them. Definitely way more expensive, but worth it, worth every cent.
So you probably got some durability with those as well then.
Yeah, they're very convenient. Yep. Yeah, but I've chucked them off mountains and chucked them down the ski field several times and rub them and tear them and stuff, and nothing's ripped, nothing's. The worst is it's a bit scuffed from hitting all the rocks, and that's about it. But yeah, that's what I mean. When I first changed factories, my main thing I said to them was I want water resistant and durable. That's all that matters, and then we could sort out the look after that. So I focus on the quality of the material first, because that's really all it comes down to at the end of the day. And yeah, once I got it, I knew straight away that it was the right move for sure.
Interesting. I think I remember seeing in there that where is it? Yeah, you do, in your emergency kits, the emergency blanket. It's in your medical kit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I usually carry 3 of those when I'm guiding, because I've got 2 clients, so you should always have 1 per person. So there's 1 in there. You can easily fit another one. I tried to make this sort of kit for 1 per person, and or 1 per couple. You can always add a couple of extra bits if you need to.
Not into cuddling?
Doesn't work.
And then you've got some guides in there too?
Yep, so I went down so I've got so there's a general survival guide there, so it's double-sided. I've got a few of the, how do we do that? So I've got some of the shelter layouts, because a lot of people you wouldn't even know where to start, a lot of people. So given some basic tarp layouts. I've got about fire, what to do when you're lost, when you're hot, too cold, about water, signaling help and all that. And then there's a first aid one inside the first aid kit, which I think I've got here. Yeah, and then the first aid one covers just your basic stuff, sort of what you'd just through wounds, broken bones, heat stroke, hypothermia, CPR, and stuff like that. So they're just handy to have, because when the thing I have at the top of that when things go wrong is to stop, think, observe, plan. Because worse than that kills people is panic. So sort of one of the things I ran with this is that when you've got the kit in your bag, you don't have to freak out. Something goes wrong, you get lost, or something goes wrong, you don't have to freak out, because you're pretty much sorted to look after yourself for a while. So it's never going to keep you alive forever, but it's to keep you alive until someone finds you. That's the main thing.
Now, with the whole branding of it, I mean, have you lost any of the kits like at night? Because I mean, it is it looks really nice, but it's a dark design.
Yeah. So what I did, so the front is actually the logo on the front there, that you can't see it there, but it's actually reflective, and see that the light hits it.
Okay.
So if you shine a torch, you can see it. So and then obviously added the orange band. So I've always been considering doing an alternative color as well, which is like just the reverse, full orange with black writing and stuff on it. So that's always an option going forward. But I think it sort of suits in nice, and with that sort of shininess, it does help out. Everything is, you might you don't want to chuck it in the forest and hope for the best though. So
No.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's the last thing you want to do is to lose something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and the whole name, I mean, I'm not sure if you know about the KEA, because the KEA is a native parrot in New Zealand. There you go. So it's a native alpine parrot, and it's the only one of its kind in the world. It's sort of known as the smartest bird in the world. It's got it's got an intelligence of a 4 or 5 year old human child. It's smarter than a monkey in a lot of times.
Wow.
So they can use tools. They make their own tools to survive. So they used to be everywhere 100, 200 years ago, and we wiped them out. So sadly, they used to eat the sheep when the settlers first came. So the government put a bounty on them and almost wiped them out. So a lot of them have moved right up into the mountains. And there's only about 2,000 left, 2,000 to 5,000 left in the wild. And they're amazing, so funny. Like you'll go see them, and when you go down to Milford Sound, they'll jump on your car and they'll car surf. So they'll hold on to the top of your car, and they'll rip all the seals out from around the windows, and you get up to about 80 kilometers an hour, and that's when they finally let go. So the whole but it's always been my favorite bird, and just because they're natural survivalists, they live up in the mountains, and they use tools to survive, and they live in one of the most inhospitable places in the world. The weather and everything and the terrain is insane. So the fact that they can actually get through, and the only reason they do survive is because of how wily and smart they are. Because most of our birds are extinct. We've only got about half a dozen left that are actually proper ones. So we've lost, I think it's 80% of all our birds are extinct, wiped out now. So I partnered up. One of my things I always wanted to do from the beginning was partner up with helping them to keep going. So I partnered up with the KEA Conservation Trust, which is based down near me, and they go up and they monitor. They look after the wild ones. They monitor the nests. They put traps in a lot of the places because there's no native mammals in New Zealand. So we were a land of birds, and there were no predators. So when we arrived, we brought mice, we brought rats, we brought stoats and ferrets, and these things just wipe out these birds, just decimate them. So they go out there, they trap them, we drop poison from the sky into the bush, which is contentious, but needs to be done with cyanide poison pellets to kill all these rats and stoats. So I'll be heading out with them. So I'm going to donate kits for their field workers. And I'm going to head out with their field workers in the next few months to go check out on the nests, because the problem with the KEA and a lot of our birds is they can fly well, but they nest on the ground because there were never any predators. Oh. So the KEA will nest in holes underneath trees, and the stoats, which a stoat is a mink, basically what you guys would know as a mink. They will go in the holes and just rip them to shreds. I've come across birds that have been hit by stoats and there's nothing left, just a bunch of feathers. And they can go around, they can kill a whole family in the nighttime, and they don't even eat them. They kill for fun. They just run around, kill them, and then carry on, kill the next one. So they're pretty bad. They're public enemy number one, and they're very smart. So they won't eat the poison. And they won't use traps very often. So they're very hard to kill. So it's one of the main things that KEA Conservation Trust and the whole Department of Conservation in general has to find special ways to try and kill the predators, because they're wily little things, and they're doing a lot of damage. They reckon if we don't do anything by 2030, 2050, they'll all be gone. So
is that the only bird that is in New Zealand, or is there?
No, we've got some we've obviously got the kiwi. So the kiwi is why we're called kiwis. It's a flightless bird. We have a bunch of a lot of the ones. We used to have one called a moa, which was the largest one of the largest birds ever recorded. It was about a 3.5, 4 meter tall ostrich looking thing. And there were 10, 20 species of those, and they were all over the country. And when the first settlers arrived, or when the Māori people arrived about 400 or 500 years ago, they wiped them all out. So they ate them all. And then there was the eagle that used to hunt them that had I think it was a 9 feet wingspan, and that used to hunt these moa. So it was the largest bird of prey ever recorded, and all these were gone before colonists even came. Wow. And we've got the couple. We've got the kiwi. We've got the kaka, which is similar to the KEA. We've got the kakapo, which is another one. It's another parrot. It's the largest parrot in the world. It's about 5 kilos, and it lives for over 100 years. So it's they got to the point in the 70s and 80s that there were only about 5 of them left. and they went and rescued them from the mountains and took them to an island, and they were all males, so they almost went extinct. And then they happened to find a couple of females on another island. So for the last 30 years, they've been breeding them, and now they're up to about, I think they've got 250 now in the world left. So
Wow.
they were down to the last 10, and they got up to where they are now. So they only breed every 5 to 10 years, so because they live for so long. So you can see why they got wiped out so fast.
Huh.
Yeah, we've got some amazing terrain like Milford Sound and our fjords down south. And even those that you can't ever walk into them, the only way into them is by helicopter. But the rats and the stoats manage to get there. They swim across the rivers, they swim across the ocean to get to these islands and just wipe them out as they go. And there's nothing to kill them. The ironic thing is they brought in the stoats because they initially brought in rabbits for a food source, and they used to shoot them and hunt them, and the rabbit problem got so out of control that they had to do something. So they brought in stoats to kill the rabbits. But then they realised that the rabbits were too hard to catch, so that they just went and started killing all our native birds, because a lot of them, like I said, they nest on the ground, and a lot of them are just ground birds in general because they were never scared of anything. So they decimated them in no time.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a whole other world compared to North America, because North America, a lot of your species, you don't really have that many extinct species. A lot of your native species are still around because it was a natural ecosystem where you had predators and prey, whereas we never had predators. So as soon as introduced predators came, our native species just got wasted.
Interesting. How things change.
Yeah, bad decisions of the past.
Yeah.
Making another bad decision to solve the bad decision, and then it just keeps getting worse and worse.
So are things kind of, I know the country's not open yet, but locally wise, like, are you getting some, work out of that? Like
Kiwis don't really do guides. We're very do-it-ourselfers. Like I lost 95% of my work this season. So normally I'll do over 100 days. This year I did about 5 to Kiwis. So Kiwis, we're very, even if, fishing in New Zealand is very difficult. It's very high skill fly fishing. So that's why it's sort of the mecca for fly fishing. But if you live here, you've got enough time to figure it out. So the reason we do so well as guides is you have people that fly in for a week or two, and if they don't get a guide, they're not going to catch fish. It's as simple as that. So they get a guide for a couple of days, and they've got my knowledge of 20 years of fishing to try and get them a fish in a day. And even the best fishermen a lot of times will struggle to land one in a day. So it's definitely a challenging thing to be involved in, but it's good fun. I love being out there. It was the reason I moved down here to the mountains, because I wanted to just fly fish for myself, and then I ended up guiding and did it for many years. So it was good fun. Did a lot of helicopter fishing and stuff, so I got to see all those places, all those remote places we have, and it was good. But I was getting to the point where I wanted to sort of start looking at new things, and COVID was almost a blessing in disguise, because if it hadn't happened, it probably would have been a lot different, because I was every winter, like I work the summer and then I'll take the winter off. So from May, I usually go overseas to go fishing. So last year I was going to go to Cuba for a month, and then Colombia for a month, and then Mexico for a few months, and it all got cancelled just before I was going to go. So luckily, I still had all my savings left from the season, so I could use that to spend on developing the new kit. So it was almost the way it's turned out. It definitely is a blessing in disguise, and going forward, it could be it's going to build a business here that has got a lot of scope and a lot of potential, because the outdoor market is it's quite stagnant. A lot of the gear in the outdoor market has been the same for 20, 30 years. It hasn't changed much. The only innovations you get really you get innovations in materials, but you don't really get innovations in design. So, I can make the most of those material innovations and start to work more around design, like I have for this kit. And there's a lot of opportunities around that. So once I get this one done and get it out the door and get it going, I can start working on the next one and just build from there. And being where I am, I've got a lot of access to a lot of outdoors people and a lot of good places to take footage and videos and good places to test it. So couldn't live in a better place to really try it out. The only thing is I'm a long way from anywhere. So
Would you keep it under the brand Kia or go under your company, beREDI?
Well, Kia is the product name, so it's KEA KIT is the product name. It's not the brand. The brand is beREDI Outdoors, and that was originally going to be on the kit until I started calling it the KEA KIT. So that'll be the overarching brand going forward, and then I'll develop different things, like I might do a Kia Light, a Kia Heavy, a Kia Guide, those sort of things, just on that same survival aspect, and then I can branch into other stuff as well, and keep it as an overarching thing, and just keep innovating new outdoor gear.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy to do when you're sitting at the bottom of the world. I don't have access to the markets in the northern hemisphere, which is tricky. Getting following and interest in New Zealand is quite easy because it's, we've only got 4 million people, 5 million people. So our whole country is the size of one city in America. So it's not too bad, but trying to get access, that's why Kickstarter was such a good option, because it helps you get access to those big markets. Yeah. Like I can't even travel to my factory. I'd like to go to Thailand later in the year and go to the factory, but for one, I can't go in their border, and then to come home, I've got to sit in quarantine for 2 weeks and pay $5,000 for the privilege. So it's not really worth it. So it's a tough time, but
is there any idea with New Zealand when they plan on opening up the borders?
No, it could be another year the way it's going. I mean, there is no plan. That's the problem. We managed to keep it out, and we haven't had COVID since the first lockdown. Really, we had a couple of minor lockdowns in Auckland, but we haven't had any restrictions where I live since the first lockdown ended in April last year. So it's just normal life ever since. But the problem with that is, because we got rid of it completely, is that we can't let it back in again.
Yeah.
So the benefit that America and stuff has is that, that it was terrible. They killed a lot of people. But going forward, because they've had it so prevalently in the community, they can actually let people in and not have to worry about it. Whereas we've opened up to Australia because they don't have any problems either. But the likelihood of opening up to US or something is so far off, even with a vaccine, because a vaccine doesn't stop you from getting it. So until our whole population's vaccinated, I don't think they'll do it, and that won't be for another year, likely. So it's a long road, and then tourism's going to take a long time to recover. Even then, it's been absolutely decimated. Some towns have lost 60% of their population that have left because they were so reliant on tourism, and businesses have just failed left, right, and centre. So it was our biggest export before COVID, so it's our biggest money earner. We've 4 million tourists a year, so our same population coming in every year, and it went to zero overnight. So it was pretty amazing. And even now, only people allowed in now, you got the Australians, but other than that, it's only New Zealand citizens. So it's pretty hard going.
Yeah, because I know our borders are, there's talk about it opening up around July.
Yeah. Do you have mandatory quarantine when people come in?
Yes, it's supposed to be. I don't know how well it's being monitored.
Is it at home or is it in hotels?
A hotel.
Yeah. Yeah, ours is like you fly in, they put you on a bus or a plane to wherever they want. Like my friend came home the other day, and he got flown down to Christchurch, which is the city in the South Island, even though he lives in the North Island, but because that's where the hotel was, they fly him there for 2 weeks, and then has to sit in the hotel room. And luckily he doesn't have to pay for it, because if you're outside of the country when it happened, you don't have to pay for it. But if you leave, like if I left now to go to my factory, I'd have to pay $5,000 for the hotel when I come home. So it's pretty pricey.
Yeah. I know going to Mexico and stuff like that, like the States, and there's no quarantines there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, they just have to have negative tests, really. I mean, I normally go down to Baja a lot to go fishing, and I know people there, and they were saying people still bring it down. Like one of the people I know there, they got it the other day from some Americans that came into the resort they were working in, and they were out of work for 2 weeks. But Mexico can't afford to keep people out, because places like Baja, their whole economy revolves off American tourists. So without that, and they don't have any welfare system or anything. Over in New Zealand, we're lucky we got a pretty good welfare system, and we're looked after when things go wrong. So other countries don't have that privilege. So it's going to be a long road back, but all we can say, we only had where 27 people die from it, whereas America had 500, 600,000. So
Yeah.
you see the difference. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
what was when you went into your Kickstarter program, what was your initial amount of money you were looking for?
Yeah, I set the original goal at 15 grand, which was 100 units. So I wanted to set it low so I could try get through that in one day. And then that was always the plan, is try to get fully funded on the one day, and then that helps you start to rank up with Kickstarter. And
Now,
you
that 15, is that US?
That's New Zealand, so it's about 10 grand US.
Okay.
And then I always wanted to try do over 100, and I hit that in the first week, which was pretty awesome. And then my next one was 200, and I hit that yesterday. I think I hit 200. Yeah. So this is all New Zealand dollars, obviously. And then I'm at 150 US now, as of right now, and I'm hoping to get that over 200 US. So roughly sort of 340, 350 New Zealand. I've got 2 weeks to go still, so it's quite hard to keep the momentum up. You know, I had a lot of momentum early on because I got a lot of contacts in the outdoor industry, and then I got some local media, which really gave me a good boost. But halfway through, people's interest starts to wane, as it normally does, and then in the last week, everybody jumps on before it finishes. So you really got to try and keep it pumping on as through the middle, which is the hardest part.
Yeah.
And I've been able to keep it consistent, which has been good, because a lot of campaigns, they'll spend a lot of money before they launch, and in the first day they'll do a huge amount of money, and then carrying on it will just drop and drop and drop and drop to almost nothing as they go through until the end. Whereas mine has just been nice and steady basically throughout the whole process. So been pretty happy with it, considering I've done most of it myself, whereas a lot of people can have agencies doing the stuff for them, and it costs them a fortune. So luckily I had the time. That was the biggest thing, though, because I wasn't working last year, so I had the time to do it myself. So
no, I think it's an awesome idea, Matt. I mean, I think you've outdone yourself on this. Being somebody that has camped pretty much my whole life, I mean, you're always looking for some sort of solution and some sort of thing that's compact as well.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing all the extreme backpacking and stuff I used to do, but I mean, even at that, I mean, this is a great type of kit to have when you're off-roading, when you're camping, when you're even for your RV or your van, whatever it might be. It's a great kit to have.
Yeah, and I never, I wanted it to be versatile. You know, I never wanted it to be just hardcore people, and that's why, you know, the biggest sort of thing, if you're ever going to get any negativity, it's from the people that are hardcores. You know, I know people that will have a spreadsheet and they'll put every single thing in their pack and weigh every single piece, and then make sure that their pack is a certain weight. And those guys, you're never going to get them, because they will. They are doing their own thing, and I'm not trying to target the people that do their own thing. I'm trying to offer something that's useful, versatile, and can be used in many ways. That's why I say it's an outdoor survival kit for any adventure, because it's meant to be for any adventure. It's not meant to be specific. Like, I do a lot of things. I go fishing, I go hiking, I go off-roading, I take the boat out, I go to the ocean, I go diving, I do all these different things, and no one thing is good for everything. But it sort of covers all your bases whenever you need it. And then you can obviously, that was why the idea of customizing is you can change out what you need to make it suit each one even better.
Well, it's like you've got an emergency kit for your car with flares and jumper cables and stuff like this. This is your emergency kit for yourself. So, I mean, this is something people should be keeping with them as well.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I've even had people say they just want to have it at home, because it's, you know, in New Zealand, we're very sort of, we've got to be very on to the emergency preparedness stuff, because we get a lot of earthquakes. So that's always a big thing. So even that's been a big market where people they've already got their emergency kit where they've got their food and everything for 4 or 5 days, but they want something that has all the tools and the first aid kit and all those little bits and pieces that you could just chuck in a bin, or you could just have one case, which when you're on the go, you can just pull it straight out, chuck it in your bag. If you have to leave the house quickly because of an earthquake or something, it's something pretty handy to have to just have it on the road for that sort of thing. Even though it wasn't targeted at that, you know, it's built it as an outdoor emergency survival kit, but it's definitely, it suits that sort of thing as well, and that's why it's good in your RV and in your car and everything, because if you have to leave somewhere quickly, you know you've got everything there ready to go, rather than trying to scratch around the toolbox trying to find everything.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, that takes time. Sit there and, okay, I need this. What else do I need? Oh, I need this and this and this. Where you just grab your KEA kit and it's all there.
Yeah, like our government is very, very proactive on getting us to plan. You know, we have a lot of earthquakes. We have about 10 to 20,000 earthquakes a year, and some of them are very big. Most of them are very small. But when we get a big one, which we've had half a dozen big ones in the last 20 years, a lot of the time, obviously, tsunamis are a big thing here as well, because we're so coastal. So with tsunamis, you've got to get up and go. You can't stuff around. And with other earthquakes, you know, the big one we had in Christchurch about 15 years ago, most of the houses were uninhabitable. You know, all the ground turned to mush. It was all liquid. All the pipes and everything were broken, and everyone had to leave their home. They couldn't stay, even though it wasn't life-threatening. It was inhabitable. So having it as a backup. So like I've got in my garage, I've got a big bin that's full of all like cans of food and even cat food for the cat and all the bits and pieces. And I've got one of my kit in there, just so I don't have to individually chuck everything in there and just have it sitting there. It's all ready to go. So it's quite a nice thing to have.
No, that's great. So, I mean, you look at it and it's like, you know, everyone talks about the negatives of COVID and stuff, but I see a lot of positives with a lot of people. And here's one of the positives. I mean, this gave you that time to create something that's a must-have.
Yeah, I mean, like you can look at it two ways. I mean, I lost my business that I've been doing for 5-6 years, and it was really good money. It was a good lifestyle, but I always wanted. When I hit 30, I always wanted to get back into business and into an actual proper business, because I had some businesses earlier on, and I did all right, and they sort of allowed me to go live a lifestyle business. But I wanted to get, you know, fishing guiding isn't scalable, and if you break your leg, you can't work. So it was very hard for me to focus on something new, because it was just, you know, I'd work my season and go overseas and fish, and then come home, work my season, and there was not really any incentive to leave it, because it was so fun. And then this really forced me. So it was probably the best thing that could have happened to me, really. Made me readdress. And if you look at it overall, you know, even the way business works now with talking online like this, you know, 2 years ago, if you were sitting in your spare room like I am now, having business meetings around the world, people wouldn't take you very seriously.
Yeah.
But now, the biggest companies in the world are all sitting in their spare room, talking to each other over this. So it's normalized it. So you can run a business from a little town. You know, my town is only 7,000-8,000 people in the middle of the mountains, in the middle of nowhere, and I can and build a proper business out of here just by having the internet and having the computer, which is pretty nice. And COVID's just made that. Without COVID, the technology and just the sort of the stigma around it was a lot different, and COVID's really changed that.
Yep, it has.
Yeah,
it really has.
I mean, last week, I think in one day I had a call with Barcelona, Armenia, Taiwan, the US, and Australia all in one day. You know, and if you were traveling around, it's impossible. So, and it's really, really handy.
That's great. No, I love your kit. I love the idea. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's good, man. Thanks for taking the time to talk, man. It's good to share it out there. I mean, like I said, you can only do so much from a little town in the middle of nowhere. So it's good to talk to someone new about it. And North America is obviously a big part of it, a big market for it. So that's the getting a bit of exposure in those markets is always good.
Well, and I think that's how, like, I don't remember how I came across it. I mean, because we do adventures and we're out 4x4ing and stuff like that and overlanding. And I think because of kind of our interest, that's how it came up. And then I did a bit of research into it. I'm going, you know what, this is just great.
Yeah, you
So
probably could have come up with an ad or something on Facebook, probably.
I could
Which
have.
was yeah. I mean, I was running them myself initially because, like I said, I've always targeted those 4 key markets. So you've got Canada, US, Australia, and New Zealand.
Yeah.
New Zealand, I can do quite easily myself, but the outdoor, I've done a lot of travel around Canada and America, and you just see the outdoor market over there is just massive. You know, you go to the national parks in America, and there's just tens of thousands of people, and half of them are just have no clue what they're doing. And
Oh, exactly.
if you go to places out there, and they die from heat exposure. You know, I was in Moab at the national parks. It was like 40 degrees, and people were just walking out with a backpack and a drink bottle. And I was like, I couldn't even sit out the car for more than 5 minutes. And like, there's been a bunch around. There was a few articles last week over that Memorial weekend where a lot of people were going to the Grand Canyon, and they were getting the bottom of the Grand Canyon gets really, really hot. Apparently, I never realized, and it's like 45 degrees at the bottom and cooler at the top. So people were walking down and getting heat exhaustion and getting stuck down there. So and a few guys have been missing. I saw one yesterday where they still haven't found them. So there's a lot of and that's, like I said, with COVID as well. I mean, this is the best time to probably be doing this because people can't travel internationally, so they're all exploring their own backyard. They're going into their own outdoors. A lot of them for the first time ever.
Oh, exactly.
And they go to the outdoor store, buy a few of the basics, and that's it, and then head out. But you know, the ironic thing about the outdoors in New Zealand is, like I said, we have nothing that can hurt you. No animals, no snakes, no bears, no spiders. But the weather is really, really dodgy. So what happened? One of the reasons it first gave me the inspiration was that just after lockdown last year, a couple from the top of the South Island went out hiking, and they got lost for 19 days in the bush, and just because of weather. So they went up in a mountain, and then it fogged in, and they couldn't find their way out. And the rescue, they didn't have a beacon, so nobody knew where they were, and the rescue people couldn't find them half the time because the weather was so bad. So that the only way they were going to die was from exposure or lack of water. And New Zealand, you're never going to run out of water. They had no food. They ran out of food, but they had a tent. They had packed the right sort of gear, and they just sat there and waited. And they waited 19 days until they were found. And they just happened to fly over them, and they found them, and they were fine. And I actually sent a KEA kit to the guy, and he's a big fan. So he's one of the, you'll see on the he's one of the testimonials on the campaign, Dion. Yeah, so it's pretty amazing to survive in New Zealand bush for 19 days with the weather that we have. It's pretty amazing. So, and just because he was ready, he was prepared for something to go wrong.
Yeah,
but if you're in
that's something that people don't think about is, sometimes is being prepared in case something goes wrong. And having a simple kit like this is something that I think is
go down banks, they fall off cliffs, and all of that just because they don't know where they are. But the fact is that if you have a kit, 9 times out of 10, you're better off just to sit there and wait for people to find you, because you're actually not going to be that far from the trail usually. A lot of people get lost within 100 meters of the trail, and they'll just walk around in circles until they finally lose energy and die of cold. So if you have a kit like this, that's the reason I built it. Like I said, you're not going to live in the bush with it for weeks. It's about keeping you alive until you're found, and that's why the shelter is so important. That's where most people, people will prepare. Everyone carries a first aid kit. It's pretty hard to find someone that doesn't. Mm-hmm. But I mean, other than the first aid kit, the next thing, most important thing, is a shelter. Because there's a graphic on my Kickstarter. You'll see that you can survive 3 hours without shelter if you're in bad weather. And if you don't have a better way to get out of the snow and the rain when things go, especially if you're already wet, you'll die in no time. Whereas a lot of people will end up carrying extra food rather than carrying shelter. But you can live 3-4 weeks without food. So as long as you have shelter and water, and that's why I had the water straw as well, as long as you have those two things, you can sit there and wait. Like the guys I was talking about in New Zealand, you just sit there and wait until someone finds you.
Now, I guess that'd be difficult to do. I was going to say, could you put a card in the pack of edible plants? But I mean, that's going to be kind of different throughout the different countries too. Yeah,
it just comes down to the thing. It's just unnecessary. I mean, you're better off not to eat. I mean, you're probably, for most people, like if you know what you're doing, it's a whole different story. But for most people, you're better off not to eat, because if you had a book of plants and you got it wrong, you'll
True.
probably die. Like, like you look at that Into the Wild, you would have seen that movie Into the Wild with Emil Hirsch, and he lived out there for a couple of years, I think it was, and what killed him was eating the plant. He ate a plant and then just slowly rotted away in that bus. So like I say in the survival guide here, I actually say you can survive more than 3 weeks without food. So focus on your immediate survival needs like shelter and water. So don't try go out catching rabbits or hunting down elk or something to get yourself a feed. If you've got no food, you're better off just to focus on what's going to keep you alive now rather than later. And obviously, if you don't eat, you're going to lose energy and you won't be able to move as much. But depends on what you're planning to do. I mean, if you don't know what you're doing and you're pretty beginner or intermediate or just an amateur, trying to find your way out when you're lost is probably just going to kill you. So you're better off to stay still. The only people that should try to find their way out really are the people that know what they're doing.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, the beauty about what I do when I'm on a river, I'm fishing, I can technically never get lost because I'm always on the river and the river always goes one way. So it's basically my path back to where I came from. So I can never get lost. But as soon as a couple of times I've tried to take shortcuts and gone off trail, because usually walk back down, sometimes there's trails and stuff on the side of the river to walk back down. And I've taken shortcuts and I've got lost in the middle of the bush and it all looks the same. And every trail looks like the main trail, but it's not. And you start following it. And luckily I have, I've got a map on my phone, my GPS on my phone, so I can, if I get lost, I can find my way out. But it's been a few times that I've just stood there and just thought, if I didn't have my phone, I'd probably be screwed. Yeah. I've walked too far away from the river.
Been there.
Yeah. It's amazing how your mind will fool itself. As soon as you start to get lost and you start to freak out, you will start to see trails where they aren't, and you'll start to believe that little mark there is the trail that you're on, and you start to follow it, and it's just digging your own hole. You just keep going deeper and deeper. So that's why I love it. Like in New Zealand, they just say, key thing in New Zealand a lot of the time, the search and rescue people will just say, just stop. And that's what I did on the top of that. I said, just stop and just see what you want to do, because you're probably better off to stop and sort yourself out than you are to keep walking and just make it worse.
Yeah. Interesting. We are at our hour. I don't want to keep you, but I really appreciate this. I mean, this is really cool. And for anyone that's out there, I mean, this will be coming soon. It's a must-have for your van, for your trailer, for your truck, for anything. It's just something that's being prepared is important, and that's what Matt's done with this KEA kit. So it's really cool.
Yep. Thanks for your time. Anyway, it was good chat.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I appreciate you taking the time to come and chat with us, Matt.
Yeah, it's all right. It's a Saturday, so I've got plenty of time. I'm supposed to
try wrestle.
Yeah, I've got some beef short ribs cooking, so I'll have to go spray them, spritz them.
All right. Well, we will chat with you later.
Okay, I'll see you later.
Thanks, Matt. Bye. What a great idea. I think Matt hit this one on the nose by having this kit. Having a kit like this, I think, is important for your survival, important for your just your everyday when you're out in the woods. And having something like this to be prepared is great. Because when I go out, I'm packing little things here and there and everywhere, and then it's kind of all over the place. So having something all together, I think, is just great. I want to thank everybody. And if you haven't already, you can go to our website, www.vancityadventure.ca, and you can find merchandise, stickers, and a bunch of other stuff and more information about us. And there is a Father's Day discount, which is in our YouTube chat for this weekend only. And yeah, I hope everybody's out there. Have a great Father's Day, whoever you're spending it with. If you're not, have a great weekend. And thanks for stopping by, guys. See you guys later. And remember, do epic shit.